Are you wondering if you've been in an emotionally abusive relationship? Perhaps you've lost days, weeks, months watching YouTube videos like this. Maybe you're thinking, it sounds like they were abusive, but I'm just not sure. This video is about sexual coercive control to help you understand and understand what happened and what you can do next to recover. Welcome to the Inner Healing Sanctuary. I'm Elizabeth, host of the Mindfuckery podcast, which is FeedSpot's fifth must-listen-to podcast on emotional abuse. I'm the accidental author of Finding Lily, the A to Z of emotional abuse and divorce matters. I've been a woundologist for over 20 years, working with past life wounds, clearing ancestral trauma and working with this life wounding. And through my own personal experience, my own journey, I know how much this hurts, how confusing life becomes. So many questions, no real answers. I want to help you understand and process what's happening inside you and help you discover the best tools to heal on a deeper level, becoming the best version of yourself. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're returning, welcome back. You might be wondering if you have been in an emotionally abusive relationship. I remember losing days, months, actually, even years, watching video after video and wondering if I'd done something differently, if I'd said something differently, whether I would be in this place. This week, I want to talk about sexual coercive control. Let me give you some common examples of coercive behaviour. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do now to help you stop the rumination that's keeping you trapped. Coercive control creates invisible bonds. It creates invisible chains. So how do you know if this is happening to you? Coercive control is described as an act or a pattern of assault that's carried out through forms of threats, humiliation, and intimidation. And some common examples of coercive control are isolating you from friends and family, making you feel guilty for spending time with them, depriving you of basic needs such as food, monitoring your time, monitoring you via online communication tools or spyware, taking over aspects of your everyday life, such as where you can go, who you can see, what you can wear, depriving you of access to support services, such as medical services, repeatedly putting you down, saying things like you're worthless, humiliating, degrading or dehumanizing you, controlling your finances, making threats or intimidating you. Coercive control is emotional abuse. It is used to harm, punish, and frighten a victim. And this form of behaviour is used to make the victim dependent on the abuser. By isolating them from friends and family, they exploit them and deprive them of their independence. Coercive control or controlling behaviour does not relate to one single incident. It's a pattern that occurs over time. It's used for one individual to exert power and control over another. Coercive or controlling behaviour is now a crime in the UK. The law came into force on the 29th of December 2015. Coercive control creates invisible chains. People might ask why you didn't leave earlier or why you didn't see what was going on. On some level, you did know there was something wrong with the relationship. However, during the cycle of abuse, there was this point where you lost who you were and your focus was on protecting the relationship rather than protecting yourself. And it's these invisible chains that stopped you from walking away. The fake future stopped you from moving on. You found yourself in a world manufactured by the abuser. You found yourself living in confusion and fear. Sexual coercion is unwanted sexual activity where a person is pressured, tricked, threatened or forced in a non-physical way. The legal definition of rape from the Metropolitan Police website is when a person intentionally penetrates another's vagina, anus or mouth with a penis without the other person's consent. Assault by penetration is when a person penetrates another person's vagina or anus with any part of the body other than a penis or by using an object without the person's consent. The overall definition of sexual or indecent assault is an act of physical, psychological and emotional violation in the form of a sexual act inflicted on someone without their consent. It can involve forcing or manipulating someone to witness or participate in any sexual acts. Sexual coercion is when a partner feels obliged or forced to perform a sexual act. You may have lived in fear that if you didn't do what this person wanted, there would be consequences, perhaps loss of the relationship. The abuser may have used triangulation, or they might have been caught having an affair and used sexual coercion to get you to perform a certain sexual act that you didn't want to participate in, or that you weren't comfortable with. As with all relationships with emotional abusers, you have a boundary, they need to take control, so you want to break that boundary. And they use techniques to manufacture emotions within you, gaslighting you, perhaps using triangulation, telling you that somebody else in another relationship performed this act for them, or they don't understand what your issue is. They might even create a fake person, and you end up believing that this is all your fault and that there's something wrong with you. By understanding the cycle of abuse, the gaslighting and other tactics that were used will help you make sense of everything. This form of abuse penetrates on so many different levels, so many different layers. Your brain has been tricked to believe that what you were told was the truth, and it takes time to de-traumatize. And it's so easy to slip back down into that dark hole when you're faced with new facts or new situations. You're never going to get the closure that you need, and that's part of the game. Gaslighting is really dangerous. It creates feelings of insecurity, confusion, brain fog, self-doubt, fear, not feeling good enough, feeling vulnerable or powerless. Another tool they use is triangulation, used to manufacture emotions of jealousy and insecurity from you, making sure that you're aware of what you need to do to stay in that relationship. They might have even told you that they discussed your sex life with other people, making you feel insecure. And by manufacturing these situations, your emotions are heightened. You experience jealousy, neediness, rage, anxiety, doubt, insecurity. Remember, a normal person would want to ensure you felt secure in your relationship. They wouldn't want to create fear in you. Coercive control is so damaging, and it isn't just sexual, it can be financial as well. Being controlled, it's done for manipulation purposes, to take control and power. And every time they break down a boundary, they're one step further to destroying you. Sexual coercion is carrying out a sexual act that you do not agree with, but you feel if you do not do this, you're going to lose this person and you're going to lose the relationship. And anyone who's never experienced this type of relationship will not understand why you just can't walk away. And these relationships are so hard to heal from because you had no idea the abuse was taking place. If you're in a physically abusive relationship, you know when you've been hit. You can see the black eye or the bruised stomach or the bruises on your arm. Perhaps emotional abuse isn't something that you consider until after the relationship, when you've been discarded and you've got these intense emotions that are out of proportion to the ending of a relationship. You were seen and heard in a way that you had never been seen and heard before. And it doesn't matter how many people try to point out that it might not be healthy, you can't hear them. You've got the abuser telling you how lucky you are to have them in your life. So at the end of the relationship, you still believe this is true. They've also told you that you're the only person that has ever understood them. And you hang on to these words, these phrases. So when it all comes crashing down, nothing makes sense. And sex for them is about power and control. It's not the act that they get the gratification from. It's exerting the power and getting you to do something that they know that you're not comfortable with. And that is where their gratification comes from. I'd said I would give you 3 things that you can do today to help you stop the rumination that is keeping you trapped. If you're still trying to understand if what you've been through is emotional abuse, when you heard the list of coercive control, how did you relate to that? How many did you tick? Coming out of these relationships, you have so many more questions than you do answers, and it's so easy to slip into rumination. Rumination is the process of continuously thinking about the same thoughts, and they tend to be dark and sad. It can be dangerous to your mental health, and it prolongs your ability to think and process emotions. Ground into your body, staying out of your head and in your body helps you process what's actually happening. Remember, everything you were told told, or a lot of what you've been told, was actually a lie. By being in your body and out of your head, you're not continuously thinking about what was going on. And I'll link some grounding techniques in the description below. Breathing can also help you. It helps regulate the nervous system as well, calms down your stress hormones. Use box breathing. Again, I'll put a link to that below. Another technique is writing out your story so you can remind yourself of who they are. You might still be protecting them, justifying their behaviour, knowing internally that it wasn't right. But when somebody talks about them, you jump and protect them. Most of us have experienced some form of trauma in our lives, but we don't go around treating people in the same way. Remind yourself, using the story, that it was abuse. And that moment that you can call this an abusive relationship, you'll see your healing speed up. If you found this video helpful in some way, please like and subscribe to the channel. I'll link my video on grounding, on breathing, and I'll also link my free self-care workbook as well. As always, sending you loads and loads of love.